you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away, as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music.
Nicolas Cage is probably one of our generation's definitive actors.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everybody's keeping well.
Hello, Stu here. I'm keeping well. I hope you are too. Do you like that one? This is my new little one for the summer.
That's it. That's you being all nice and happy, is this?
Yeah, I think he was kind of channeling Rosie and Jim, which we were talking about in the old group the other day. That we are right though. Rosie and Jim is infinitely better than Tots TV. He's completely off his head.
I mean, I've only seen bits and bobs of Tots TV, being that I would have probably been, I'd imagine, at secondary school by the time that came out.
Mm.
But Tots TV is the one where they did the episode with the Jimmy Savile style one, isn't it? And like they did it days after the news broke that he was a nonce, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, and you've got a bit of French in the title as well. I'm a Tots it's all silliness. No one really likes Tots TV. No one liked Tots TV then. They're fooling themselves if they think they did, because Rosie and Jim was elite.
Yeah, Rosie and Jim was great. I'm fair, I don't think I've seen it since then, but at the time, it was fantastic.
I mean, I walked over the canal yesterday when I went to again, it's 2 minutes in, it's already gone. When I was walking to the Vine yesterday afternoon, and as you do, and I walked over the bridge, and there was a little barge went under the canal bridge. And every single time, even now in 2024, I think one day someone is going to have a duck on the top that moves. I mean, if you owned one, why wouldn't you do it?
It's got to be done, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to work down the waterfront, Merry Hill, and obviously there's the canal that runs along there. So there'd always be barges along, and every day you would look out for them, hoping to see Rosie and Jim, but it never came to pass. So I know we've recorded an episode, so this is going out slightly out of how we recorded it. So next week is going to be the half-term review, and this week we're going to be talking about something that's happened over the last month or so. Yeah, I've had a cold for like the last couple of weeks, and it's just morphed. Every single day has been completely different to how I was feeling the day before. Like the first day, it was just a bit of a scratchy throat. Then it was a cough. Then I couldn't breathe. Then it was like my nose just couldn't stop running. And now it's just my sinuses are just blocked to fuck. They're like, feels like an ice in there, like there's just no movement.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It sounds very much like the unspeakable. Because my boss, she was there, yes. When did I see her? Oh, I saw her today, but she was at Tuesday when I was in. And She was like, "Oh yeah, I had I had a curry last night, but I couldn't taste anything, so I had to put the poppadoms in them just so I could have a bit of texture, because I couldn't taste anything at all." And I was like, "What?" She went, "Oh yeah, I just got COVID again. It's fine." I went, well, see, even when I had that back 4 years ago, I never had the taste or smell thing, thankfully. So I can't relate to ever having this phenomenon. But she's like, "Oh yeah, it's fine." But she's not had a scratchy throat, so you've had everything else apart from that.
Yeah, because I was talking to someone at work and they were saying that there's a new variant that's happened. Like, I think at this point,
Of course there is.
COVID-19 is just the cold now. It's just part of everyday life and we have to deal with it. That's why I've not tested, because all of my tests have expired. So like, I'm not buying more because it makes no difference. I can still do my work from home. So what's the point in spending 10 quid just to say I've got COVID, but I'm still at work? So
yeah,
I thought it's pointless. But yeah, a few people have said COVID, and it sounds like the last couple of, well, this variant is sort of chiming in with what I've been suffering with the last couple of weeks. So potentially, but then this is the first time I've had it, whereas I think you were the first person I knew who was struck down.
pioneer.
Like, it was within weeks. Like, everyone else was fine, and Stu had been knocked on his arse.
Well, yeah, because I went to. It was the people who went to Barcelona, right, for the Espanyol game.
Yeah,
and they went to Espanyol they went to Barcelona for that Thursday, came back, and then we had Spurs away on the Sunday. So 3,000 people, the vast majority who'd been to Barcelona, were then all the way down to London on coaches as well, contained with each other for 4 hours. And then, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I had the 4 days where I couldn't breathe properly and had to rotate like a kebab spit. Other than that, I've been absolutely fine ever since. So there we are. If you got it from the source, got it true, that's the best way to deal with it.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. We've got completely sidetracked again. Right, okay.
Talking about real horrors.
Yeah, this is it. So, as I said, we've had, in the last sort of month or so, we've had a few horrors which have been released, 2 of which are starring Nick Cage. So I thought, let's talk about them. So, I mean, I suppose there was 5, because there was also that one from M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. I think it's called The Watchers. I've not seen it, though, and I heard it was not very good, so we'll ignore that one. We'll talk about the other 4 that I think are worthy of mention. So we've had Arcadian released, starring and Nick. We then had a film by Michael Sarnowski, who obviously directed Pig, and that was A Quiet Place Day 1. We then had MaxXxine, which is probably the most hyped film of the year, potentially. And then we've had Longlegs, which is probably the other film which can rival it for the most hyped film of the year.
We can throw one in, so we haven't talked about it either, and I've watched it now as well, in A Vioent Nature.
Oh, yes, of course, that one is now. Yeah, we'll put that in as well then. So we'll do it in release order, I think is the best way to approach it. So I think that was released a week before MaxXxine. So we'll start with Arcadian. So Arcadian, it was released. Now, I got to see this quite early doors, because I think it was one of the cases of the Americans had it, released it to streaming, and then we got it about 2 months later in the cinema. So I'd already seen it before this film had hit the cinema screens in the UK. It was sort of touted as, I suppose, like a Quiet Place was very much what it was tied into, in that it was these monsters that sort of lurk in the shadows and don't necessarily come out. But obviously they were photophobic, I think is the term, where they don't like light and stuff, whereas obviously Quiet Place is very much all to do with the audible senses. Had you got any sort of knowledge about this film going in, Stu, or did you go in blind?
Talking about Birdcage, there was another one. It reminded me very much of Birdcage in that.
I can see that, yeah.
That kind of thing. But now I had no idea. I didn't even know what it was about. It was only when you said, "Oh, have you seen Arcadian yet?" I went, "No, I haven't, but I will." That I watched it. So, and I was talking to Nate about this because he said that in America they've started doing like secret cinema as well. He said it was like a proper thrilling experience because he went in completely blind, and I said, "Well, that's kind of how I watch every film." But with this one, it was completely blind because I had no idea. I knew Cage was in it. and I kind of guessed it was horror based since you wanted me to watch it in relation to Longlegs.
Yeah.
But yeah, going in completely blind. There's just the opening scene's him running down a street, and then it's 15 years later. What the fuck? What is going on already? Yeah, it was something.
It is interesting. And so it's the director on this one is a gentleman called Benjamin Brewer, which wasn't a name I immediately recognised, but we have seen one of his films before. He directed The Trust. Do you remember the film with Elijah Wood, where they played a pair of cops and one was...
Oh, yeah.
That's Benjamin Brewer's film, which kind of surprised me. But also looking at the rest of his work, he seems to be pretty much known as like visual effects and as a writer, more so than a director, from what I can see. He did lead visual effects on Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh.
And I think they did such a good job with the effects in Arcadian, because obviously they didn't have a massive budget. So I think whenever they showed the villains of the piece, these aliens that were lurking in the shadows, they did this really interesting choppy effect on the camera, so it wasn't smooth running. And I thought, by doing that, you're hiding the joins.
Yeah.
So you're making chicken salad out of chicken shit, so to speak. You've done such a good job at that, and I thought that was fantastic. I was really impressed with how this film looked on what must have been a shoestring budget.
Yeah, especially when they open their mouths or whatever you presume is the mouth, and it does that shaky cam effect over that part of the face or the head. Yeah, really well done. I did like as well how, we'll kind of get into it, but how you're just in there. There's no explanation, and you kind of find out throughout like theories of what happened, and because it's 15 years after the fall of the end of the world or whatever. And these big trenches, and have these things come up from below ground? Are they aliens? Who knows? Doesn't really matter. But how they're linking with the cockroaches and all that stuff. I thought those were some really clever ideas in it. I was surprised.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting, because as we know well, when it comes to Nick Cage films with no budget, they don't always hit, do they? Let's be honest. There's quite a few stinkers in that back catalogue. And all I knew about this film was that he played the father, and it was about his children. I thought, well, this is going to be a horror based around kids. Is this going to be kid-friendly crap? And I don't think it was. I think they managed to do it in a way that it ended up being really quite tense, especially towards the end when the villains got into the house and they were attacking the two kids, Cage and the girl from next door. They managed to really ratchet up the tension in this film. I wouldn't say it was outright scary, and they didn't really lean into any of the jump scares with this one, but they really made sure that you could feel the tension within. And I thought that was a really good way of doing it, because we see jump scares so often that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've just become completely desensitized to a jump scare now. They're worthless. You need to give me something else to make the horror interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there was no jumping in this film whatsoever for me. In other films that we'll talk about, they definitely was. But bear in mind, I did jump at the Jurassic Park 3 logo, so but it was it was a loud cinema, and the claw marks down the screen, wasn't expecting it. Said it before. Yeah, I thought the only bits were like when, like the trap. I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah,
didn't expect that. You gotta skip. We're not going spoilers anyway, are we? Because it's
no.
But again, none of this is spoilery because it's kind of explained. And I did think what we like I mentioned about the Bird Box and A Quiet Place itself. What is the thing here? And like you said, they're not defeated by light. They just don't like it. Like when he's in the corner of the bedroom with a dog and he scurries under the bed. I mean, what were they? I presume they were people or like in suits and then digitally altered afterwards.
I assume so, because like they're obviously very much of a humanoid nature, and they look like they're proportionally they look like it could have been a person in a suit, and then they've put the effects on afterwards. Was there then like right at the very end where I think that was, where it was the burning wheel of bodies that was rolling down the street. Obviously that's a bit different, but I think it was. But if it wasn't, it must have been so well done that you couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. The movement seemed incredibly natural for something that's obviously not. And I was trying to think what they remind me of, because we've seen something like it before where it's almost like a skull. It might have been in a game or something. It might have been in like Death Stranding or something, where like, this kind of creature that it looks like, the head looks like a snake, but just the skull of a snake, and then it opens up. I thought, for what it was, I thought that the creature design was really, really good. And in fact, we've seen it before, like when we get probably more love on this podcast than anything else into The Descent. Some of the things in that made sense for where they came from. And if these were from the ground, or they were mutated people or wherever, it does make sense because they are based in reality, and other than the whole thing of where it's whatever it's regurgitating. But again, flies do that and other animals do that. So I probably paid more attention to this than I should have done.
And it was nice to have a good 92-minute film as well.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it ever outstayed its welcome. There was no sag to this film. It picked up at a decent pace, and it kept that pace throughout. At no point was I ever looking at my watch thinking, come on, let's wind this shit up. No, I think, there was no fat on this film whatsoever. So from like a scripting point of view and an editing point of view, I think they found the balance perfectly on this one.
Yeah, completely agree. I did think, oh no, there's a girl, what's going to happen here? Is it going to be Hollyoaks After Hours and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Because they are of that age, and they're like kind of Twilight era, kind of tweens. Early
14-ish, I think.
Yeah.
So around that. Yeah, so they would have just missed the fall of humanity, from what I can tell.
Yeah, so it was... I liked how they kept away from that stuff, to an extent anyway. And it would have been easy to tack it on, have another 15 minutes of all that relationship stuff, but again, fall of humanity and how they didn't trust certain things all made perfect sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I was going to mention to you about the sort of budding romance that started. I'm not saying it's not cringe. Cringe isn't the right word for it, but there's that little bit of, these are probably too young to make it an interesting story in what would be an R-rated film. Like they're a little bit too young for it to play any real role in this. Because there is that scene where, I forget the boy's name. Is it Thomas? No, Thomas is the elder of the two, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where Thomas and Charlotte, I think it is, where they're in the bedroom, they kiss, and then he goes to go back home when he gets caught by her father. And I thought, oh, please don't lean into the melodrama and teenage heartache of all of this, because you will lose it at this point. Because it's very much on a knife edge, this film, is where I think it could easily have gone down that road into teenage nonsense. And it didn't do that, thankfully. What did you think of the two brothers in this? It was Jaden Martell played Joseph and Maxwell Jenkins played Thomas.
Everything's been positive so far, and I don't want to shit on it because it's obviously a low-budget film, but I just didn't buy it. And obviously they're not twins, are they? We don't know if they're twins. It's never... They could have just been different babies that he's collected in this alleyway that he was at the start.
Yeah.
I mean, who really knows? But how they don't really like each other, that worked for me. I think the one who's very much clingy to the dad, he's clearly got some kind of... Let's say he's autistic, but it's the end of the world, so you're going to be a bit fucked in the head anyway, are you? So
He's the Donatello of the group, though.
Yeah.
He's the one who's building shit.
the other one's obviously not socially awkward, and he's got the whole, there's more to life than this, boarding up the house every night to stop these things getting in. Wanted a bit of adventure and naughtiness and that kind of thing. So it worked from that extent. I just think it was just hard to, there was something missing. I don't know what, couldn't put my finger on what it was. Maybe they just weren't that great, but
I think they almost bordered on caricature. I think
maybe that's what it was.
it was slightly too stereotypical. A little bit. It was like there's B movie and then there's B movie, and a little bit the latter, like a little bit too close to the knuckle. I think at points they were perfectly fine, but I thought Cagey's performance was really good, albeit he's very much the background. He's the driving force without being seen on screen. But I thought Cage did a very good job of shepherding a fairly young cast through this, was the impression I got with this one. Especially because he was a producer on this film. So I imagine if he's getting the production on it, there's a good chance that he was quite hands-on with it, I expect.
No, I did think in the first scene, why is he come dressed like Ewan Lopetegui for? Because his hair looked the same, his cardigan jumper looked Rich used to wear all the time. That he was sporting looked the same. I thought, and then molded into one person, and we spent too much time looking at these two men over the last 2 years. But yeah, considering he didn't have much to do in general, and he wasn't the star of this film, you can't think of anyone else there, can you? Because it just worked. It ain't like Colour Out of Space, which was what I thought it was gonna kind of turn into. I thought, we've seen this kind of thing before a couple of years ago. It wasn't that kind of role, but it worked.
Mm-hmm. So we'll do the normal questions as we do. Nick Cage, good, bad? I mean, it's good for me, like unquestionably solid.
Yeah, solid performance. No crazy Cage, nothing special. Just a job well done.
So, did you like the film? Being the other question, Stu?
I don't know. Everything we've said was good and positive. I think you know what, the more has fucked my vision of everything up, because that was so good. It's like, well, why can't everything be like this? But yeah, I think I probably did. I wasn't bored. It was only short, like you said. I wasn't bored with it. It was entertaining. It entertained me. It wasn't schlocky. It wasn't terrible, and the effects were excellent. Story was no backstory doesn't really matter. Well, there was backstory, but it's like I liked that bit more than anything else. How they kind of is this what happened? Oh, I heard this is what happened, and he said, "Well, make your own mind up then." It's not really important. It's about the people rather than the backstory. So I liked it from that point. But yeah, I think I did like. I know certain people who I would recommend this to, and people who I wouldn't. That's probably the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, it's like you say, it's a very simple story, very to the point. I've seen worse films with bigger budgets. It's perfectly serviceable. It's perfectly fine. No more than that, I wouldn't say, to be perfectly honest. It's just a fine film. Does the job. You know, you don't go in expecting a lot. I've just remembered I haven't done the good, bad and crazy. I don't really have a crazy, and I feel like we've discussed the good and bad of this movie. Was there anything else that you'd add to that?
Craziness. There's zero crazy Cage in this.
Oh, no, not at all.
No. I was thinking of that after the fireplace, but no, even that, it's just, he was just mad.
I suppose the only thing I'd say was crazy is I'm kind of surprised that this got a cinematic release.
Yeah.
Because it's very straight to DVD. And I don't mean that as an insult, but that is what it is.
Yeah, it's... was it Shudder?
Shudder were one of the production companies on it.
So that explains it. Because I've seen that logo quite a few times there, and I thought, I don't even know what this means. Obviously, they've got their own service and whatever, but I don't know if it's made for this or it's probably made for it eventually.
Well, it's a bit like Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix films then now get a cinematic release before going to, the actual streaming service itself. So I think Shudder are just starting early days. We've got 3 films from them, I think now. Arcadian in A Violent Nature and Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense. I mean, you've got Amazon MGM now as well, so that's got to work that way. So they're all in on the game. I think the crazy was probably the only crazy bit that didn't really make a lot of sense was the cave bit. Like he fell to his doom, so you think, and then Cage just comes in through the side door. That was it was a little bit
Deus Ex Machina, wasn't it? Like it was a little bit out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's if I'm being exceptionally picky, that one scene is that. But it's a film about weird aliens with snake skeleton heads that spit and shake. So
take that with a pinch of salt, I suppose.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Right, okay. So the final one. Finish the sentence. If you enjoyed Arcadian, you might also like. I can't think of anything other than Bird Box and Quiet Place.
Yeah,
those are the only 2 that. Maybe The Girl with All the Gifts. I don't know if you ever saw that. Zombie film set in the UK. I auditioned. Well, I didn't audition. I submitted an audition to be an extra in that film because it filmed around Dudley, if I remember correctly. And it's a post-apocalyptic zombie land, so Dudley.
Well, I was going to say they'd have to do with
the parts. Some of the parts were filmed up in Stoke as well, which again, it's it. So I saw the film and I didn't realise it was filmed in Stoke until after I saw the film. And there's one bit where they go to the shopping precinct, and I was like, "That's fucking Stoke. I know that because that's right next to my office in Stoke." And when I got up there, I went up and had a look around, and it was. But yeah, it's a zombie film, so Gemma Arterton, set in post-apocalyptic world. One girl doesn't get the zombie virus. She's the girl with all the gifts. Really good.
I've got a feeling I've seen. When you said Gemma Arterton, I've got a feeling I've seen this. Is it like a shopping precinct, like the one, a bit like New Invention Square, a bit like that?
Yeah.
I've got a feel. It might have been on, and I've come home and it's been on or something like that. I definitely remember a zombie film with her in it, so it's got every chance.
Yeah, you may have seen it. If you haven't, now I would thoroughly recommend it. It's a good film.
And just a tiny bit of Stoke again. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 that you said, well, 3 that you said, and a little bit of Colour Out of Space for me because it's been a few years. Go and watch it again if you haven't already. And it has got the whole kind of family-ness of it all and the invasion. And so that's all that came to mind, but it's not really got anything on this at all. Very different film. Similar vibe.
Yeah, I agree with that. The vibe more so than like actually any of the elements of it. I know what you mean with that one. Right, okay. So we'll move on. So next one I said we'd do is A Quiet Place Day 1. Big fan of 1 and 2, and obviously this one is set in that world. It's technically a prequel, but none of the characters are actually in either of those 2 films. So it's not really linked, is it?
There's one character.
Which one?
When they get on the boat at the end, he's the guy who sets up the island in the second one.
Oh, Jamon Hoonsu?
Yeah.
I don't remember him being in the second one. I remember the character you mean, but I don't remember him being him.
The whole thing about the island, and they can't swim, can they? So that's why they've kept it away for so long. And yeah,
I thought it was weird that Jamon Hoonsu's in that film, but he's barely in that film. So I thought, what's the point in him being there? Obviously, that's why.
Yeah. So you'd think, does the cat live to the second one? Who knows?
Potentially. Might need rewatching to see. But that cat was incredible.
Yeah. Real cats as well. No CG cats.
Yeah. Like how they got it to behave and do as planned. Beyond me. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I went in with fairly high expectations because obviously Sarnowski did Pig. We love Pig. So, and we also were big fans of this franchise anyway. So I did go in with hopes. And they were met. Like, I came out of it thinking, yeah, that was a really good film. And actually, the whole cinema was fucking deathly silent, which, I mean, one, that's a good mark of a good audience anyway. But when you're watching a film where they have to be quiet and everyone around you's being quiet, I thought that it was just an indictment of what a really enjoyable movie this was.
Yeah, exactly the same for me. There was proper pin drop, as was for the first one and the second one as well. No one pissed about in these films, and it kind of, well, there's your respect for it that you know full well what you're getting into. And I didn't like it as much as you did. I thought it was absolutely fine, and I thought I don't want to see any more of this now. This is done for me. If there is any more, I'll obviously watch them. But it's almost like, okay, we've seen this now. And
I get that. At the same time, like, you could tell anybody's story in that world.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And I would kind of like to see, is this just in America? What's it?
That's what I was thinking. Give me a film in France. Like, I want to know how Paris is handling this, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That'd be a really interesting idea to see the rest of the world.
A bit like they have with the Walking Dead spin-offs now. With the Daryl Dixon in Paris and other parts of France. That it was more interesting, the actual story itself, really. But yeah, I wouldn't mind it. But that whole thing, Quiet Place in America, we've seen it 3 times now, don't need to see it anymore. If you want to expand it and do it somewhere else, Quiet Place Argentina or Quiet Place Sudan or whatever, bring it on. But you are right. You can tell any story, but with that kind of backdrop. But then, don't you kind of run the risk of the Walking Dead problem, where you get 15 years in, and the walkers are not scary anymore? Which is kind of the thing of, yeah, these things are terrifying. You can't piss about with them. You will be destroyed. If you're saying the same thing over and over again, and you see people just avoiding them on day one, how is this going to work? I don't know. But saying all that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I just like the first one a lot more.
Yeah.
The first one's perfection. The first one is excellent. The second one's very good. I thought this was, if you're going like 9.5, 8, 7, this is a very good 7 for me.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot, and I thought, yeah, the cat performance being like Oscar worthy. Which sounds stupid, but when has an animal ever been this good on screen?
I mean, there's a reason they say don't work with children and animals. Because they're generally either shit or a nightmare to work with, but by all accounts, this cat was incredible. I've just looked on Wikipedia. A third and final sequel, A Quiet Place Part 3, directed by John Krasinski, is in development and scheduled to be released in 2025. The franchise also includes A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead, a video game set within the same fictional universe. This is published this year.
It's not out yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not out yet.
I mean, that's just going to be an isolation.
Yeah, you think so?
Surely, yeah.
You have to force yourself.
I mean, as long as it's not first person, I might give it a go. We'll see. But I enjoyed this a lot, I've got to be honest. I thought it was really good. I mean, I am a big fan of Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn as well. Like, it took me so long to figure out that it was Joe Quinn.
Yeah.
I stared at him like, I fucking know you from somewhere, mate. But I couldn't quite place it. And I think, I know that he had an American accent in Stranger Things, but he's English, isn't he? And I feel like I've seen a lot of interviews with him where he's doing his normal accent. So it threw me that he didn't have the longer hair like Eddie and the British accent like I know that he has. So it's halfway through the film, I was just like, where? And then he clicks. I was like, that's it. That's where you're from. But I thought he was great. He's going to be a megastar, isn't he, I think?
Yeah.
Like how we spoke about Glenn Powell, and I feel like he's going to be right up there with him in the next few years.
Quick Glenn Powell update. I watched Twisters yesterday as well.
Yeah.
Opening night, summer blockbuster. 80 people in there, not bad. Yeah, he's amazing. Exactly the same character at all times.
Well, he's the next Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he just plays the Tom Cruise in everything. That's fine. Does the job.
Yeah. the smarmy storm chaser with his sunglasses on, playing the same character that he did in Maverick, which is the same character that he played in that Netflix thing. Yeah, but he's got a bit of charm to him. You can't hate him.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Was the film good in itself, though?
Yeah, it was fun. It's not. I know why they've done it and why they've called it Twisters. But at the same time, it's got nothing to do with the first film at all.
Okay.
Like,
right.
whatsoever. But you couldn't, what are you going to call it, Tornado Alley? And people are going to say, oh, it's just Twister again. So I get it. And it's set in the same place, and within the first 5 minutes, the machine that they send up is Dorothy 5, which is the one from the first one where that sends all the little things into the tornado to monitor it. So that's the only link, the bit of legacy tech. But if I hadn't watched it like 3 days ago, I wouldn't have remembered that.
And it's not really important by the same.
No, it's not important at all. It's in like the first few minutes of the film. But it very much the Maverick, and like I said, it's like the Force Awakens, where there is beats for beat copies.
Yeah.
But again, why ruin it? It's a good film, and it was great fun. It's exactly what you expect. 2 hours, bit long. But to say that, it was just. It didn't look plasticky. It looked fine. I think they did use a lot of practical stuff as well, like they did with the first, and you could tell because it looked better than a lot of these films have looked the last few years. Yeah, there's some really cool things in there that I've gone and watched since are not in the trailer, thankfully. But yeah, we're not talking about Twisters, but yeah, I thought Glenpole appreciation for the week. There we are.
Yeah. I mean, the reviews I've heard of Twister, the reviews have been everything from this is the most fun you will have this summer to this film is going to destroy the world because it's so bad. Like, it's just been everything in between 10 out of 10 and minus 10 out of 10. It's been very polarising, which has kind of surprised me. But I am looking forward to it because I'm going in just expecting it to be mindless, silly fun. So that's all I want from it, and that'll do if that's all it gives me. So that's day one done. So the next film. So a couple of weeks ago, I was sort of hyping up that I was going to that Secret Screening. So it was going to be a horror film, but we didn't know which film. And obviously, we had a few films due out. We had MaxXxine and we had Longlegs due out. And it ended up being In a Violent Nature. It was this film. And when it came up, I was like, okay, this is like, of the 3 films that are coming out, this is the one I want to watch least. But it's an art house film about a slasher villain. That sounds like an Andre Gillard kind of a film. So I thought, okay, I'm fine. I'm not going to be leaving the cinema. I will be watching this film. And I wish I'd have fucking walked out, to be honest. I really wish I'd have walked out. I hated that film. It was too highbrow for its own goods. I mean, I appreciated the beginning where you hear 2 people talking about, oh, there's this killer in the woods and you need to keep an eye out for it, and all this history that we're not privy to. We don't see any of it. We just hear it through these 2 characters. And then one of them takes this necklace off a mound, and it turns out that necklace is what wakes up the killer. Fine.
But it wakes him up when he's barely lying in some dirt.
I mean, yeah, like he's under some fucking leaves. He's not even buried. He's just been a bit of an autumn fall. That's all it's been. And a tongue fall of leaves, and that's enough to keep him down. And then he gets up and he walks and he walks and he walks and he walks some more. And then he continues to walk for another 5 minutes. And then this was my issue throughout the whole film. I get the point that we're supposed to see what Scream would be like from Ghostface Killer's point of view, or rather like maybe Jason rather than Ghostface, because they're human beings. So we're supposed to see the bits in between the fun interactions between the teens who are about to be murdered. But nothing happens in those scenes. So what's the point?
From bang average with shit acting, there was one decent kill. It was like watching someone playing a video game from behind. That was from Tara.
I'd said similar to Ash. I was like, the problem is the whole thing's filmed in third person. So it's like you're playing Arkham Asylum, you're walking behind Batman.
Yeah.
And that's what it was, except for where you see Batman, fighting the villains. This cunt's just walking through the woods, and then he happens across somebody. And those bits where he happens upon them, they're good. They're like quite enjoyable, quite inventive kills. But there aren't enough of those. There's like 20% of the film is those. The other 80% is him on his own walking. Hated it. So the worst scene of all was when he's not even in it. When the final girl gets into the truck at the end.
Oh, fucking hell.
And there's such a nothing conversation that goes on for 7-8 minutes where they're just driving. And you're waiting for something to happen because obviously we've been conditioned as horror fans that there's one final scare. And I realised after a minute of it, I thought there's not going to be a final scare because we've had the final scare already at this point. This is just ramming the point home of life goes on after the person dies, after the bad guy's dead. And you don't need to have done it for the length you've done it, or at least like roll the credits while you're showing that. I hated it. I really, really hated it, Stu. I'm so disappointed in the end.
I had no intention whatsoever of seeing this. And then she sent me that message that she'd seen it for Secret Scream. And then I sent her your reply of it was a film or something like that. And she's like, I don't know if you liked it or not from that response. I went, I can say you didn't like it. And then there was a Guardian review giving it 4 out of 5 stars. And I thought, really? And I thought, well, I know everyone hates it. I want to be contrarian. I want to come and play the fool again. And I need to know what I'm talking about with something that's this polarising. That's got reason to be polarising, maybe. Not like Twisters. And I was so confused for 3/4 of the film. Like, is this supposed to be a game? Is it like, it's obviously based off like Resident Evil 4 or something like that, where that's how you, because it's almost like tank controls as well, because he doesn't walk quickly, he walks really slowly. Like, obviously he's a spirit dead or whatever. And there's bits hanging off him and stuff, and when you see him, he's just a bit, what do they call him? They call him slow or something like that when they're talking about him.
Yeah.
And it is utterly awful. It's shit. But, and it is a big but here, there's 3-4 moments in it I laughed so hard that it redeemed the whole nonsense of it all for me.
Okay, right.
The tree, where the kills, really.
Yeah.
The tree, what he then does with the body.
Yeah. I did laugh a few times. Yeah, you are right. There are some very funny moments that really shouldn't be funny.
The yoga thing. The yoga kill.
Yeah, something like the yoga kill. That one was outstanding, to be fair.
And then
it had some really good moments.
And there was a bit where
2 hours.
Yeah, no. If it had been like an hour short, it would have been brilliant.
Yeah.
And there was a bit where, towards the end, where the camera goes above him, almost like Hotline Miami, where the cameras are tracking from above. And you see him like smash this stone over someone's head, and the head just goes everywhere. And then he carries on, and the bear traps and stuff. I thought them bits were I haven't seen things like that before. Or I have, not for a very long time. But it needed to be in a better film than this. I mean, if you take them out, this is a 0 out of 10. Absolute rubbish, awful shit. This, them 4 moments kind of escalated to a 4, and that is being generous. And I am kind of glad that I watched it, but I did watch it at home. I didn't have to sit there in the cinema, so I'm guessing that the vibes weren't good of fellow people watching it.
They started off fairly positive because obviously it was a horror audience. We knew it was going to be a horror film. Some people let out a bit of a cheer. They were so excited. But you could tell that it hit a point part way through where people were getting a little bit antsy, and a few people walked out after about an hour or so. And it couldn't have been through being scared because they knew it was a horror. I think it must have been through boredom at that point.
Yeah, and I can understand it because there was too much of that. There was too much of the walking. And I get it. I don't know why they did it, but you didn't. If you do it once, great, fine, whatever. But to keep doing it over and over again, nah. Silly.
It offered nothing, did it? And I understand the point was that it's the scenes you don't see. I understand that. But there's a reason we don't see those scenes, obviously, because nothing happens. It's boring as shit. Which is a shame because I liked the scene where they were sat around the campfire trading the stories about the killer and all that. And they intimated these really interesting things that we never got to see. And I've said on this podcast before, when it comes to film, show don't tell. And I would rather have seen him going apeshit and killing the village in the 70s or whenever it was supposed to have happened. Stuff like that. I thought, this sounds interesting, but you've shown me nothing. So what am I supposed to do with this? But I've looked on IMDb. Sorry, I've looked on Rotten Tomatoes just for a general gist. The reviews from the critics are all over the place. Everything from 5 out of 5 to 1 out of 5 from the Times. The Times obviously being quite a snooty paper when it comes to these things. They clearly didn't enjoy it. But then, as you say, The Guardian gave it 4 out of 5. So it feels like it's been quite a divisive film. The tomatometer is 77% on critics, 44% on audience. I completely get that. I understand why a critic might appreciate it because it is something new within the genre. The audience won't appreciate that because that isn't enough.
Yeah.
That isn't enough to make you vested in a movie. So I completely get why there's that big a disparity between the two.
Yeah, and there was a lot of stylish things because I was watching it through means. I thought at first that it had frozen and that you could just hear the sound. And then I looked and there was a leaf moving. I thought, oh, okay, this is body at the very start where you're focusing on the locket or the medallion or wherever it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's nice. And like I said, there is moments like the drone shot and things like that I've generally never seen before. That did work and they were really clever. But it was contained in a polished shit the rest of the film was, fortunately.
It's got a 5.7 on IMDb. So, and down the middle, really. I don't think... I get it. I get why people would like it. I get why people would hate it. I'm very much in the latter's group, personally. But I do get it. I won't be watching that one again in any hurry. Speaking of things I probably won't watch again in a hurry, talking about MaxXxine. I'm really disappointed with MaxXxine. And I heard this quote, I don't know if it's a Voltaire quote, but they say that perfection is the enemy of good. And I was hoping for perfection with this film. And maybe it's just a good film, but because it wasn't perfect, it's not enough for me. Because X and Pearl was so good, so great, that this was a little bit of a damp squib in the end. I'd say 2/3 of the film are fairly fine. It's a good enough, interesting story of a woman who works in the porn industry who wants to crack Hollywood and become a star in a horror movie. And that was fairly interesting enough. But one issue I had in the first 2/3 of the film, I don't think you see any kills. This could have been a 12A, to be perfectly honest. I don't think you see any bloodshed or anything like that until the final third. Right, throughout most of it,
everything's done off screen, which feels a little bit worthless when you've seen X and Pearl. You know that shit is done on screen, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to. This doesn't do that. It just feels like it's the HBO. It feels more like an ABC kind of a drama for most of it. Like, a fairly family-friendly drama that anyone can watch. And then in the third act, it goes completely batshit. They introduce characters that haven't been in either of the other two films. It's completely out of left field. It makes no sense to anything that's happening in the movie. The ending was just completely undeserved to everything we've established throughout the previous 2.5 films. And it just spoiled it. So I was really, really disappointed. And like I said, I don't know if it's just because I was hoping for at least 4 stars and it wasn't. It was just fine. I don't know. But I'm really disappointed that MaxXxine didn't hit the home run like I was expecting it to. Because as I said before on this podcast, it had the potential to be one of the best trilogies of all time. And it just didn't do it. Such a shame.
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know why I haven't seen it. It's just one of them things. It fell through the cracks or something. But like we talked about X and Pearl last year or the year before, whenever it was, and with these things, I always go in not expecting anything anymore. So maybe when I watch it and I don't get disappointed by my own expectations. But it is strange how as soon as this was announced, we were talking about it straight away, and I've left it to a month later, and I still haven't seen it. Yeah. Maybe it's some subconscious thing there that maybe I'm not that arsed, and I'll just wait for it to be at home, which I probably will have to do anyway, because I won't get around to it in time. But still, yeah, it is kind of disappointing when that kind of thing happens, really, though.
I mean, it's worth watching just for Kevin Bacon and Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah.
Both of those give really good performances. Kevin Bacon especially, you can tell that he's enjoying himself. So it's worth it for them, and I wouldn't tell anyone not to watch it, but just don't get your hopes up, I think is my main message on this one. Right, so the final film to discuss, Longlegs. Oh, Longlegs. They did a hell of a job marketing this film, didn't they? I mean, to the extent, I've looked pretty much every night since it was first shown last Friday, which was the 12th? Whenever it was released? Friday the 12th it was released. I've looked pretty much every day, every night. So I went to the first showing, which was 2 o'clock on the Friday, and it was 2/3 full. I looked at Friday evening, the cinema was full. You went to see it on Monday, was it, Stu?
No, it was...
Sorry, no, it was Tuesday you went to see.
Yeah, Tuesday at 6:20 in the afternoon, evening.
That was it, because I was going to go again on Monday, but I didn't get a chance to. But when I looked at the booking, they'd upgraded it from screen 11, which is one of the small screens, to screen 9, which is a medium one, and that was half full. They'd done the same for you, hadn't they? They'd upgraded it from the small screen to the bigger screen.
11 to 9, and it was 3/4 full.
Yeah. I looked last night, so that would have been Wednesday night at time of recording, and there was the front row was empty, and then maybe 3 or 4 seats throughout the rest of it. It was just full. I'm literally just looking now. The film's due to start in 5 minutes at time of recording, and yeah, it's over half full. This film has been playing to very, very good audiences all week, to the point that we had Despicable Me 4 released last week, and it made 200 million opening weekend. I couldn't tell you if it's a good or a bad film, because nobody has mentioned Despicable Me. Everybody's talking about Longlegs. And it's already made its budget back. It's a $10 million budget.
And it made day?
Yeah, it made $22 million on the Friday. That's how big this film has been. The marketing has been absolutely on point. Just phenomenal how well this film has done. And I went in knowing absolutely nothing because I just avoided all trailers and everything. And I'm so glad I did because he made it all the better, I thought.
Same. Well, obviously the same. I didn't even know what it was about. Again, amazingly, I managed to miss everything, as completely everything. Didn't check IMDb, other than to see how long it was, just out of curiosity. But even then, I covered the screen like that and look at the scroll, fluffy little finger, just to see, so I could see the runners. Is the fact that it has been marketed as the scariest film of the year absolute bollocks, though? Because
It's not
it
scary.
is. No,
It's not
not in the slightest.
slightest. It's creepy and it is eerie. It is not scary.
No. Even Matt could watch this.
Yeah. Like, genuinely, I don't think anybody would be particularly scared. Although that said, I did notice in my screening there was quite a few of the true crime girlies who clearly went there because it was a serial killer film.
There was some behind me that they talked all the way through the trailers, which is great, so I didn't have to hear it. Then he came on, and I thought, okay, shut up now. And then the second flash screen came up, still carried on. Oh, Sandra, you need to tell him when you get back. I thought, okay, calm. They'll stop in a minute. Oh, this is all my Andre piss taking coming back to hold me down. And then it opened when it goes to that Polaroid shot thing.
Yeah.
So it's clearly the film is starting, and they're still talking about, ladies, come on. So I literally said it like that. I said, ladies, turn around. I said, ladies, come on. I don't know. Didn't hear another peep from them. They just needed telling. I think they were just so engrossed in the moment, and they were obviously these that kind of people. They were definitely J people off Facebook. They were definitely good at to tell her if they hadn't been there. They sent the money to that campaign. But yeah, to be fair, they shut up. They didn't even hear another peep out of them. But it's a film. It's something. It's not a horror film. It's something else, though.
I get. Before I get on to that, I had 3 sat next to me who didn't shut the fuck. I shushed them and was like, the fuck, quite loudly at times. And they just, nothing, just kept muttering throughout. And it was like proper inconsequential shit as well. Like there's one bit, something happens, like, oh, they're going to the mom's house. Like, yeah, they've just fucking told you, you read. No, but they had to explain everything that was happening as it was happening. But it was quite clear that you just like red-handed and think that you know about killers. That's the only reason you're here is because this is supposed to be like Silence of the Lambs. I was so angry. Honestly, I don't know if I saw the voicemail that I sent to Ashton and after I saw it was laden with horrendous words. But yeah, like this film isn't scary. A few people did yelp and scream at several points, which really surprised me. So the first time you see Longlegs, you only see him. I don't know why I'm doing this. Only you can see him.
Chin down.
Yeah, so you only see him from his chin down, don't you? And then like he leans down and he goes into view of the camera. And people screamed, like several people screamed, whenever Cage was on screen. Just the mere sight of Longlegs was enough for people to scream. And I don't really get what you're screaming at. He looks eerie and he looks creepy as fuck. Like you wouldn't want to bump into him. But that's not scary. Like he looks like he looks like someone's nan you would bump into in fucking Primark or something. He just looks lost. That was the image that you can get from him, but it wasn't scary, was it?
You know who it reminded me of, though? As soon as I saw it, I couldn't get it out of my mind. So every time it came on, I just started giggling to myself.
Oh, God. What's that character's name?
It's Marilyn Manson from Bo Selector.
That's it. Oh, I thought he was somewhere. I thought he was one of the ones from Peep Show then when you showed it me. Oh, yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, absolutely. Like
a cross between that and the Jigsaw doll from Saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
He doesn't look like Nicolas Cage at all.
No. Like, quite a lot of work. So obviously they make his cheeks look puffy and his nose is bigger, and like there's quite a lot of work they've done to him to make him not look like the man himself, I think. So that they did quite well. It wasn't bad makeup looking at it. I didn't look at it and think that was comically shit. I thought it was quite well done.
Yeah, it's the same old thing. It's like the talking thing, from Rogue One. You're only questioning it because you know he doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. I actually thought all of the technical, film things, like the camera work, the cinematography, everything like that, I thought was actually really, really well done. The changes between the widescreen, then when it would go to the Academy ratio, and so it looked like it was filmed on a Polaroid type of setting. Just the different changes throughout all of it, I thought was so well done. Really nicely balanced. I was so impressed on a technical level. I thought it was fantastic.
You know that one scene where it flips to bright white, and then she's standing over and she walks. Thought that is amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't pick up any of this bollocks any time ever, and even I saw that.
Yeah, there's quite a few proper moments of proper joyful cinema that you think, oh, this is a work of art in parts. So yeah, I was really taken with it, which it surprised me because I've got a tweet from Ash Dolan that he said today, Longlegs really was one of the movies released in 2024. It certainly exists. There was acting and music. The first 2/3 was superb build, tense and spooky. Then the third act happened and wasn't for me. I've seen this criticism a few times that the third act doesn't work for a lot of people because it goes supernatural. My question would be, have you not seen the first 2/3 of the film where we find out that she's a psychic? This whole film has been supernatural throughout. Where do you see? What did you think of the ending where it becomes about Satan worship, effectively?
It's actually perfect because it is billed as part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah.
As an ident on the screen for people who don't know, who haven't seen it yet. The first two, and we'll get to comparisons after, so I'll mention it there anyway. The first two, I thought, this is as good as 7. This is superb. But I don't completely understand because it was my first thinking as well as soon as I came out. I thought this is when, what was it? There was a film I saw years ago, Devil something, with Keanu.
Oh, Devil's Advocate.
Devil's Advocate, yeah. Where that just goes.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that. And I thought, I don't like this. I thought, this has ruined it now. But then I think back and you think, well, yeah, they're talking about Satanism from the very start of the film. They're giving
it all together.
Yeah, they're giving her the Clockwork Orange test, effectively, on how can she know these things? How can she see? How can she spot houses where he's in that house over there? How is this possible? So I get it. It just seemed like it was from a different film. That part 3 was from a different film. So I understand completely. And it brought it down from one of the films of the best film of the year to probably about a 7 overall. And that's not saying it's bad. It's just such... The jump is too big, I think. I think the jump's too big from being a Jay Slater Facebook Mom's serial killer film to Devil's Advocate. And I just didn't work. I didn't get it. But then, said I didn't get it. I really enjoyed part 3.
Mm-hmm.
If part 1 and 2 had been like part 3, I thought it would have been a massive... I thought it would have been a thrill of a minute thing, but how do you do that? Because you don't get to that without doing what you did in the first 2. So it's a massive contradiction of emotions and all sorts, but it's a film, all right. And I'd still say go and watch it to anyone because it's not scariest film of the year. That's bollocks. There was one moment where she's looking through a box. That was the biggest jump scare for the last 10 years. It proper got me. And I didn't kind of, leap from the chair. Yeah, fine, whatever. But I still enjoyed it though, because the whole film is stupid. He's a comedy villain. He's gonna be. It's almost like he's designed for Halloween.
Yeah,
and you just know these weirdos, Tara, Jess, who worship Halloween and are planning it already. That these masks are gonna be there, and they're gonna have long legged masks and the hair and the wig, and it's gonna be everywhere. Just like it was with Squid Game a couple of years ago. It's just guaranteed for it. We all know it's coming. It's just one of these things. But at the same time, when he's interrogated and what happens in that interrogation, shocking stuff. Shocking stuff. Yeah. And you thought, yeah, no one else could do this role at all. So it's a massive contradiction of everything I can possibly say. Is it a great film? For 2/3, yes. Is it a great horror film? For 1/3, yes. Is it a load of fun? Probably. But will I watch this about 20 times in the next 10 years? Absolutely.
100%. I liken it to being on Oblivion. Stu, do you like theme parks? I don't know if you ever spoke about this.
I don't mind them, but I've only ever been to Drayton Manor.
Okay.
So every time. Yeah.
So it's, for those of you who might not know, I have friends from the great nation of India, for example. Alton Towers, there is a ride called Oblivion, and it was the first sheer drop roller coaster in the world. And it's literally, you go high, and then you drop down face first into this black hole and then come out the other side. That's what I like in this film too, because the first 2/3 of this film, they intimate the Satanism, her being psychic. They give you the elements of the supernatural, and they draw her out of the house to then leave her a letter without any footprints actually being there. You see things that aren't there. They give you the supernatural, and it's this slow build, and then you are just facing with this sheer drop, and then all of a sudden that third act is you falling through the floor on Oblivion. That's what this film was. It was that slow build where you're following Harker, because Lee Harker's character, she's the straight man throughout this entire film. And when I say straight man, obviously that's a comedic term. There are some really funny moments in this film. I laughed several times. Like, she's so awkward when she's dealing with her captain's daughter. When her daughter, she's like showing her all these toys, and she's just sat there all prim and proper with her arms folded, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in this child's bedroom. And she asks, like, can you come to my birthday party? And she just gives this look to the camera, like, it's almost as though Tim in The Office, when he just looks at the camera exasperated. There's moments like that. They're like, this is really funny. And I really enjoyed it. But because Harker is the main character, those first 2/3 of the film, where it is all about her leading up to her confronting Longlegs, it's very straight-laced, albeit within the realms of supernatural. So I get why people might get a little bit weirded out that everything is, it's tunnel vision, and then it's fucking mayhem in the third one. But I loved it for that.
It's a bit like True Detective season 4.
Yeah.
That started like the first one, and then he completely fell off a cliff into stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
But that was awful. This was fun.
I mean, if that was made into a film, that probably wouldn't have been as bad, but stretching it out across 6 or however many episodes was...
Yeah. You said about Oblivion, it sounds a bit like, I think it was Apocalypse at Drayton Manor. That was one of the ones where it takes you all the way to the top and then drops you, and then you catch at the bottom. Similar, and there was the PlayStation at Blackpool. It was a similar kind of ride as well.
Yeah.
And I get that, the anticipation and then the sheer drop, that's probably the perfect analogy for this. But I thought, where have I seen her before? So I thought, is she Scandinavian? Because why is she being so awkward? But it was just a really, really excellent performance.
Yeah. So Maker Monroe, she's in It Follows, which is a film I really enjoyed, and I can't wait for the sequel. Next year, I think it is, They Follow. Should be good fun, that. Obviously, the director is born of horror royalty as well. So he's the son of Anthony Perkins. Osgood Perkins, his name, which is such an interesting name. His brother, his name is Elvis Perkins. Yeah, the Perkins family. His mom was also an actor and model, Berry Berenson. I couldn't say I'd ever heard of her, but then when I was looking at it, it says that she died September 11th, 2001 in New York City. She was on one of the American airline flights, the first one that hit the tower. So I think, could you imagine growing up in a family where your father is this horror icon, your mother died in the most horrific of circumstances? I can't imagine you'd be a particularly well-adjusted human being, perfectly honest. So I'm not at all surprised that he's gone into making horror movies. But for someone who, I couldn't tell you much else of his work. I've heard of some of the films, but I've not seen any of the films that he's done. It's made me want to check out and see what else he's done. I am really intrigued now to see what else there will be from him. So the other films, we've got The Black Coat's Daughter, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which is such a wonderful title. I don't know if it's any good, but the title alone makes you want to see it. So he's got a couple of movies that I think I'm going to try and check out after this. Anything else to add to the good, bad, or crazy column that we've missed out here, Stu?
I mean, the crazy is his entire performance. He's born for the role again. Yeah. Like we said about Renfield, very, very similar kind of thing. And there's moments in there where you think he's taking the piss here. This is not serious. And then he goes like that. He's creepy again. And you think, yeah, he's a true psychopath. And where he's at the band downstairs and all this kind of stuff, and you think, yeah, it's either clearly written for him or he's doing his thing again, because this is an A-star performance from Cage easily.
And again, he's not in it for a massive amount of time, is it?
No, I think the crazy bit has to be that he didn't even appear in makeup until the take was there, and he did his thing again. Because I read it on IMDb afterwards on the way home, so I was so intrigued by the whole situation. And she even said herself, there was no Nick Cage there. There was nothing left after the prosthetics and everything.
Could you imagine that? Like, Maika Monroe she's up and coming. She's been around for a while, but I don't think she's had a particularly massive breakthrough role. And she gets to work with someone of the stature of Nick Cage. And you haven't met him until that scene, that interrogation scene, is the first time you meet him. That must have been kind of mind-blowing. How would you handle that? Just incredible.
I mean,
one crazy thing I was going to say, it's made me want to rewatch Peggy Sue Got Married. It's the voice. I need to see it again to see how close it was to his Peggy Sue character.
Yeah, I can see that. There was a crazy thing from Arcadian we never talked about, the fact that he took his family to live in the woods for 3 months to get the character.
Really? I didn't know that.
Mad lunatic. For a role where, again, he's not even in it that much.
Yeah, he's barely in it.
Yeah, I think the bad for Longlegs is the fact that that jump is too much for seemingly most people. So I thought it was just me, and then I looked around and then Ash had exactly the same thought as well. I don't know how you get around that though. Do you put an extra half hour and do you blend it somehow together? Or is it the fact that it was always supposed to be like this and it's the fact that the jump is like that's the point? I think this is going to be one of these where it's going to be like second, third, fourth watch. You get to a point with it. Okay, I understand it now. And when you see it on the second watch, you see more things that you saw naturally in the first, and it blends more carefully that way. That's probably more than likely what's going to happen. And this is just another problem than the film itself, because it is fucking batshit insane at parts. It's completely mental.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at 86% tomato meter for the critical score, and it's 65% for the audience. But then on IMDb, so their meta score, which is the weighted critic score, so rather than it just being a binary yes or no, it's, is it an A, is it a B, what do they give it? That's a 77, and the audience score of that is a 7.3. So it's well regarded, I think, from those who like it. But I think it's probably going to be quite polarizing.
Yeah.
Which horror tends to be anyway, in all honesty. And I mean, it is still technically a horror. I'd say it's probably more of a thriller personally, because it does tie into stuff like Silence and Seven. I think Seven's probably the closest comparison personally. So I get it. I do get it. I don't feel like I had whiplash with that third act. I was absolutely fine with it, because it is restrained throughout and you are waiting for it to take off, and then it takes off. I was perfectly fine with it, but it does seem like I might be in the minority on this one. I don't know. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I did. I don't really think of any negatives on this one. I thought all of the acting was really good. I thought Alicia Witt as the mum was fantastic. Blair Underwood as Sergeant, really liked his performance. I really liked it when he lost his marbles at the end. Yeah, I enjoyed everything about this film. I really did.
I thought as well, it's funny you say that. When she goes back to speak to her mom, and you see her for the first time, and I was kind of taken over. I thought, hang on a minute, how? Surely she's way too young to be playing her mom. And then I looked it up, and no, there's a good 20-year age gap between the two of them.
Yeah, mate. Oh God, Make Her Rose, born in 1993.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
These kids today. Alicia Witt was 75. But yeah, like Alicia Witt does look very young for her age, in fairness. So, I mean, there was a little bit of that.
The fact that you're closer in age to the mom than the daughter.
Yeah, that's disappointing. It's only 2 years in it, in fairness. So apparently, Longlegs is Alicia Witt's highest rated film. And her lowest rated film, have you ever seen 88 Minutes? It's a Al Pacino film.
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah.
Does he get poisoned and he gets told he's got 88 minutes to live? And from that point in the film to the end is 88 minutes exact. It's got Lily Sobieski, who is like the best bad actor in the world. The one who got drop kicked in Wicker Man, Lily Sobieski. I fucking love her. She's awesome.
I'm sure I had that on DVD, you know?
I think I did. It absolutely stinks, that film does. But in just the right way that it's fun. It's got 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. It really does stink, but it's a lot more fun than it should be, that one. Right then, so you said you'd recommend it to others, so I'm assuming you mostly enjoyed the film. 7 out of 10, what you reckon?
Yeah, I think that works. I think that 7 out of 10 works perfect. I think 7 was the vibe that I had all the way through the part 1 and part 2. And I know people who don't like supernatural stuff. So, like, I was saying to my mum, and she was like, "Oh, that's supposed to be scary, terrifying." They were talking about it on the radio. They had it on free earlier. I went, "Yeah, exactly." But it's not what it's billed as. It's not scary in the slightest. It's more about the occult, I suppose, than scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you say, what do you compare this to? And 7 is the obvious one, because there is a bit of weirdness in the whole thing, about the whole point of it, I suppose. But yeah, there's again, like Arcadian, there's certain people who there's no point saying this will watch this, but I think there's a lot more that will get something out of it, and especially from his performance as well, more than anyone else.
Yeah, I get that, absolutely. I mean, I don't think we're massively miles apart. Like, I think I'd have said it was 4 stars, 8 out of 10, that sort of region. So I think we're fairly similar, but I don't have that issue with the ending. So I really enjoyed this. As for Nick Cage's performance, there's just not enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that's my bad. I want more Nick Cage, but at the same time, would that take away from the film? Because he has two scenes where he's pretty much front and center. He's the the interrogation scene, which is the scene of the film for me. And then you've also got the scene where he's in the hardware store, where he's talking to the young girl, who is Oz Perkins' daughter. That girl is. So when she shouts to her father to come and say Longlegs is here, he's weird. It's like a meta commentary on the film, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, like he's in those two scenes and he was perfect in both of them. So I don't know if more would have been less or if just having those fleeting appearances made it a 10 out of 10 performance.
You sure the bit in the car as well where he's just screaming at himself?
He's really good, isn't he? Like, with so many of his films we've seen and they've absolutely stunk, but he's still been decent in them. You do realise he's one of the best actors who's ever lived. Like, genuinely a fucking superstar for a reason.
I think, I came to this realisation earlier that we've done this for 3.5, 4 years now.
Yeah.
And before then, I'd probably watched about 10 maybe. And then this is 65 or something like that. And I probably love him way more than I ever expected to after starting this little project. And he probably is my favourite actor of all time now.
Yeah. Like it started out as a joke on on fucking Community that I stole shamelessly for us to do a podcast just to talk about film. And now I genuinely love the bloke. If and when the time comes that he shuffles off this mortal coil, I will be fucking devastated. Yeah, he's properly like one of my favourites at this point. He's just been outstanding.
It's whether we've got another 80 on to watch yet.
Yeah, we have got a few. We need to get cracking on with him. Right, okay, finish the sentence. So, yeah, Longlegs, what else would you recommend? So we've said Silence of the Lambs, we've said Seven. The house that Jack built, I think might be a decent one for folks to watch. It's a bit of a mindfuck and it's got a bit of a sick ending that people might like or might not. It's a Lars von Trier film and Lars is very divisive. Matt Dillon plays the titular Jack and he plays a serial killer. And it's all about these really elaborate murders. And then at the end, it goes just fucking balmy. So I think that might be a decent one to weigh against it. The House that Jack built from 2018.
I'll throw one in. The House of Wax remake.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, like, again, it's sort of shit in the right way that it's fun. And that's what I think you need with something like that it does work. Yeah, it's a good show, that one is. Right, okay. So that's 2 more Nick Cage films in the record books. I can just knock those off the list now. Next week, I said we've got the podcast that we've already recorded, which was the halftime report with me, Stu, and Ash, where we talk about some of our favourite films for the first 6 months of the year. The plan was to have this or next week off, but obviously the way we're chopping it around, we're going to have a break now in August. Matt is going to be doing a music cast. I'm not sure. What I might do is we'll have the first 2 weeks of August off and then do the music cast and come back then potentially. But at Cage Fighting Pod, follow us on Twitter and all the socials and we'll tell you what the plan is once I've figured out what the fuck I'm doing. So yeah, at Cage Fighting Pod, any emails to cagefightingpod@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe on your podcast so you don't miss an episode. And for this week, Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
We will see you in the future. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, hail Satan.